Before we get into the astrology of the week, and we're going to talk about the week of February 16th through the 22nd of 2026, I want you to just stop and tune into this moment. So scan your body, notice what you're feeling in your body, whether it's a physical sensation, maybe it's emotional. Just notice what's here. And what has been going on in the field of your experience over the last few days, few hours, few weeks, few months? Because this is the syllabus of what your higher self is asking that you pay attention to, process, look deeper into, maybe digest, because we are officially moving forward and quickly. That sloggy energy of Saturn and Neptune in Pisces is over. And now we have moved into the energy of Aries. Aries is an energy that we all have in our charts. We're all acting it out every single day. It's the energy of our boundaries, of how we are perceived by others, how we perceive ourselves. And perception is subjective. It changes. It changes as we go through life, as we learn, as we grow and evolve, or if we stay stuck, then those perceptions also become calcified. Aries is also the energy of our boundaries and our anger. On the shadow side, it's the part of us that always wants to fight and go to war, and we're vindictive and we want revenge. And on the healthy side, it's the energy of advocating for ourselves, of saying, I will not allow you to treat me like this, or I will not go down this road. So Aries is a big archetype. It also represents our experience once we have come out of that liminal space of the birth canal from spirit in utero into being human. So Aries, 0-degree Aries, is the entry point for all of us into, whoa, I'm embodied. And I need to figure out how to get my needs met. So now that we have both Saturn and Neptune in Aries, it's like we have left that liminal space of trying to understand our experience through the lens of spirit, which has been hard. When we are handed as humans these lessons that are murky and confusing and limitless, it's hard. We've all been struggling. And the truth is that the struggle isn't over. We're still going to be asked to connect with our higher selves, our deeper knowing, our wisdom, the wisdom that gets delivered to us through God, the ethers, your heart, your intuition, your gut feeling. We're still practicing those things, but now we're moving into action. So we've been talking about how quickly 2026 is speeding along. And it's going to continue. So we begin this week with the sun making a square to Uranus. Uranus is in the final degrees of Taurus, challenging us on our values. So think about your relationship to money since 2018 and how it has hopefully shifted and morphed. We all get into our Taurus stuff about money where we want to hoard it. We don't want to give it away. We feel like we're in lack. We don't have enough. We overspend and we go into debt. We all have weird money stuff. But hopefully Uranus going through Taurus has given you some deeper insight into what needs to shift. How do you need to relax and let go? I was talking with a friend the other day about how we as a culture are taught to prioritize money almost above anything else because we place such high value on money. And the truth is that we need money to live, but we only need a certain amount of money in order to be safe, secure, and comfortable. But the belief that we've been fed is that the more money, the better, and that we put money above everything else. And that money somehow, when we have a lot of it, makes us a better person. It makes us more important. And when we don't have a lot of it, it makes us less than. And so Uranus, being the energy that challenges the old belief systems, challenges the old traditional ways of looking at money and abundance, in this case, money, what's changed for you? Because Uranus in the final degrees of Taurus is really asking you to become aware of what your new relationship with money is. And Taurus also rules things like your relationship to your physical body, your relationship to your own value, your self-esteem. And so hopefully those things have undergone significant changes. And if they haven't, here's the thing, it's like, why haven't they? Where are you getting stuck and calcified in your old belief systems and you are not changing? Your perceptions are not changing because you're not going to be very comfortable as we move forward in this new energy if you are somebody that stays stuck. And that's one of the shadow sides of Taurus is we get stuck. We hoard, we hold on to things. We don't want to get rid of things. We want to keep everything for ourselves. And I'm encouraging you in a time where the more self-aware you are, the greater change you're going to see in your world. Don't get stuck in these little places where it's just a rock in your shoe and you won't kick that rock out. So, money, abundance, self-worth, self-concept, all of these themes are in the field. And when the sun makes a square to Uranus, the sun is in the sign of Aquarius. The sun is our heart. When the sun's in Aquarius, we're having to look at our relationship to what's new and fresh. You know, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. And we're also looking at the way that our mind works and the way that we relate to other people. So there's a lot happening. And when the sun makes a square to Uranus, you're being pushed once again to melt, right? Like kick the rock out of your shoe, like all of these places. And it's interesting because I've had conversations with people lately where I can see very clearly where they are stuck. It's either that they have no interest in untangling their stuff or they don't know how. And the reason that they don't know how is because they are not willing to get conscious long enough to really face what's there. And we are in a society that loves to blame other people. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. They're bad. I'm good. But here's what I'm going to challenge you with this week. What if it's you that needs to change? Of course, we want other people to change as well, but what if it's you? And for the most part, it really does come down to that. We each have our own part in the discomfort in our lives, in our stories, in our perceptions, and nobody's going to be able to change those except for us. But in order to change them, you have to be willing to look at yourself with consciousness and honesty and say, yeah, I get caught up in a story. Yeah, it suits me to be a victim. Yeah, I want connection, but I'm not willing to connect. I want to feel safe, but I'm not willing to create safety for myself or others. I want things to change, but I'm not willing to change because we can change, right? We all have the capacity. When we come down onto this human plane, we are desiring to evolve as a soul. But in order to do that, we have to sweep away the amnesia and break through the unconsciousness and also all of our preconceived ideas about our self-defenses and what we already know to be true and our morals and our ethics and our values and blah, blah, blah. We have to really be able to discern between like what came in from somebody else. Is this just in my head because it was advertised to me? Is this in my head because this is a test that I had to pass in history in 8th grade? Is this in my head because this is what my whole social media feed is saying? This is a time when we are becoming more autonomous, and that is the energy of Aries. Okay, so as we're talking about Aries, and we are looking at the Saturn and Neptune conjunction, which happens this week, and it's going to happen on the 20th, 0 degrees of Aries. There's something really big here because when we look at something called a draconic chart is where we take the nodes in everybody's birth chart and we reassign them to North Node in Aries at 0 degrees, South Node in Libra at 0 degrees. Okay, that then becomes, everything shifts mathematically in our chart to different signs, different degrees, but that becomes the chart of the soul. This is the blueprint of what your soul came in to learn. This is a really cool chart to look at, by the way. And if you ever do a reading with me, remind me you want to look at your draconic chart. But the draconic chart comes into loud play when we have planets in the sky, especially outer planets, the ones that move really slowly, when they come to 0 degrees of either Aries or Libra, because it instigates this desire of your personal soul. It says, hey, are you on track? What are you doing? So we're going to get into that. I'm Notha Perkins of Electra Astrology, and this is my Path Ahead astrology forecast. I do this every Monday. I speak to astrology through the lens of psychological, the spiritual, and of course the astrological. But I design these talks so that you can self-inquire. So you can look at your life and say, hey, how do I relate to this? What's going on? What is this pinging in my own consciousness about something that I already knew and I'd forgotten, or something that I know I want to look at? So I welcome you if you're new here. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe so that this stuff comes back up into your feed, because these talks are dynamic every week, something to learn. And then if you're on the podcast, Star Narratives, make sure that you follow the show. Oh, if you want to work with me privately, if you want to do a reading with me or work with me in some respect, you can find me at electraastrology.com. So, like I said, we have the Sun square Uranus on the 16th. This is also the same day that Mercury connects in a trine with Jupiter. So there's a lot that we're trying to understand deeper level about ourselves, our relationships to others, with the caveat that something needs to change. There's still more change that needs to happen. And the mind being involved with Mercury here is like, that's where we get the most calcified, is the stories that we run through our mind over and over. They create these neural pathways of just the same old stuff. Right? It's like if you're somebody that is still hooked on some conversation that you had with somebody 5 years ago, or some way that somebody wronged you, some way that a relationship broke up, again, I challenge you to look at releasing some of that, because our minds tell us elaborate stories. And when we're remembering historical stuff, chances are we're not even remembering the truth of what happened. And even if we were, that's a past life. Who cares? That person came into our lives to teach us something clearly. Hopefully we learned, and now we sit here. So back to this draconic north node, with both Neptune and Saturn being on the draconic north node. So the one thing that every human on the planet has in common, astrologically, is in the draconic chart, we all have these matching nodes. Aries, identity. We've come in as souls to understand ourselves through the lens of our particular and unique identity at this point on the planet. And what has the tendency to throw us off every single time with consistency? Libra, relationships. As we are looking at this question of identity, who are you today? How have you changed and evolved? You are not the same person. I hope you're not. And again, like I said, I've had conversations with oddly many people over this past week that are still writing out the same identity that they've been using for years. They're hooked on the same wrongs, the same betrayals, the same anger. They are just stuck. And let me tell you, you don't want to be stuck right now. That's not what your soul came down to do. It is time to look at how you perceive yourself and get into those crusty spots where it's not serving you anymore, because Neptune is the spiritual teacher. And Neptune says the way that you see yourself has to evolve. It must. And if it doesn't, what's going to happen is that you go into the shadow side of Aries, which is, I'm angry. I want retaliation. I want to be a victim. I want revenge. I'm going to demand my way. That's not the spiritual approach. Neptune says, listen, allow what needs to show up to show up. Allow yourself to be guided. Allow yourself to move in the direction of what you feel powerful and purposeful about, not in the direction of what you feel pissed off about. And then Saturn comes in offering support. Hey, let me help you create a new neural pathway. Let me help you to reframe this in a way that it restructures the whole foundation of what you're doing here. So I hope that you take advantage of this. You know, it's not easy, but it is what's happening. And the 17th brings us into the Lunar New Year, which is where we change from the year of the snake into the year of the horse. So that's another huge energetic shift. It's also the same day as a solar eclipse, new moon in Aquarius at 28. Now, this is going to square Uranus. So we have the sun and the moon together, your heart, who you really are, and how you feel, and how you relate to the world through this lens of sensitivity and intuition in an eclipse, meaning that it is next to the North Node, which is the path of evolution. And it's also squaring Uranus, which is all about reframing your value system, reframing how you look at what you consider to be abundance. Because if we're going for abundance, why are we back here in, I was wronged, they hurt me, they screwed me over, and I'm still mad about it? That's not abundance, that's lack, that's Scorpio. So we're playing with some really big themes here. And, these eclipses, they bring in things that we're not expecting, and they push things out that we aren't expecting. So make room in your life for the unexpected and just allow it to be there. Go with the flow. This isn't the time to be blocking the flow. If your operating system is to never ask questions about relationship dynamics and just allowing your limited brain to fill in the gaps. I had an experience the other day where somebody said, well, I just never asked you about that because I thought it was a sore spot. And I thought, that is so weird. That is just so weird because, first of all, how do you know it's a sore spot? How do you know that I have any energy on that situation? And this person holding it close, not wanting to ask about it, creating a story in their own head, it's like a complete illusion. It's a completely fake scenario. And then it causes this friction between us because they're not asking, they're creating a story about something that's absolutely not true. And then later when it comes out, I feel blindsided, like, wait, what? Oh, so let's not be those people. Because here's the other thing is that we keep looking out into the world and saying, I want change. Everything's wrong. All of these bad things are happening. But we have to be able to do the inner work of change. If we are going to be the antidote to all of the nasty, awful, dirty stuff that's happening in the world, how can we possibly be the antidote if we are not able to look at our own stuff? If we're not able to look in and say, you know what? I was acting in a really dysfunctional way. I was dealing with a lot of trauma at that point in my life. I made really bad decisions. I want to change that. I am sitting on my mountain of anger. I'm unwilling to get off of my mountain of anger, and I want to change that. I am over here feeling victimized, feeling like I have no power, like those people did me wrong, and I want to change that. And I've been over here totally distracted, totally not paying attention, totally not wanting to get into it, and I want to change that, right? Everything that we see that is so dysfunctional out there, we're being asked in our own little ways. And I'm telling you, every single reading that I do with somebody, I can see this is your little mundane piece of work that you are here to do as part of our collective so that you can be an anecdote. And it's not the most interesting work. It's not the most fun. Who wants to really look at something like how they avoid facing their stuff by being so busy? No. Who wants personal responsibility for being angry for 10 years about something? No. But yet we need to do that. It is the time. And I said last week in my forecast, we know this material. We're no longer pretending like we don't know. It reminds me of my teenagers when they were in high school and they would pretend like they didn't know that there was an assignment due. I didn't know. The teacher didn't tell me it was due. Like, yeah, right. Come on. Take responsibility, get the assignments in, do the work, do the personal work, look at everything that's happening in your life right now at all the crunchy little spots and say, this has been given to me as the work. So maybe it's that you feel that there's somebody that has always been emotionally unavailable to you. And you have shown up, you have bent over backwards, you've tried and tried to always please them and do the right thing and be acquiescent, say the right thing, and they still hold you at arm's length and they are still emotionally unavailable. Well, you can tell yourself the story that, I've done everything. I do everything for this person and they never show up for me. Like, you are welcome to continue on that path, but why? You have to look at yourself and say, all right, I have to just let it go. Maybe I don't need to be so pleasing. Maybe I need to stop bending over backwards. They're always going to be emotionally unavailable. I'm not going to change them. No amount of overdoing is going to change it. No amount of even getting in there and having a conversation about it is going to change it. So what do I do? Where's my responsibility? Oh, okay. I have to have better boundaries. And that's one of the things with Aries, right? I have to work on my boundaries. I don't need to always say yes. I don't need to always worry about the emotional experience of this person. I have to do my own work so that I feel balanced. That's Libra. I have to bring a relationship into balance. If you're always feeling like the victim, how do you get your power back? If you're always feeling like you are mired in the details, how do you get to a bigger picture? If you always feel like you're swept up in your emotions and emotionally attached to some outcome, how do you get up into your logic and your reality check? These are all lessons. These are all parts of the syllabus that are coming in, and you will know based on what's going on in your own life exactly what aspect is presenting itself to you, because it's all unique for all of us. On the 17th, we also have Venus meeting the North Node. So Venus is our values, and Venus in Pisces is asking us to see it from a higher perspective. It's not just about how much money you have or how well received you are or how many people love you. It's much more in this case with Venus in Pisces. How connected are you with your higher power? How often do you allow yourself to just be guided? How often are you in trust? Like, yeah, it doesn't look the way that my little human mind wants it to look. You know, we're all toddlers stamping our feet in some way, like wanting the cookie. So what? Maybe we don't need the cookie. We just think we do. And North Node in Pisces is still so connected to this energy of trust and flow. South Node in Virgo, you can't control it anyway. There's nothing that you can control right now. It's all about just looking at your own personal experience, your own personal process, your own personal mission. And how do you advocate for yourself? How do you move toward what you feel really passionate and purposeful about? Not what you feel angry about, not what you feel defended about, not what other people want you to think and do and how they want you to perform, but like, how do you perceive yourself? Do you perceive yourself as somebody that is powerful, that can effect positive change? And if not, why? And we start by showing ourselves that we can trust ourselves. I'm not going to let myself spin out over this person that's crazy. I'm not going to keep looking at myself like I'm a victim, because I'm not. I'm not going to keep trying to make it different with this person that can't change. This is where we turn it all inward and we say, I got to get my power back. How do I find my right power, not my angry defended power, not my vindictive retaliatory power, but my strength, my rootedness, my staff in the ground power. And a lot of that is going to come from trusting the conduit, trusting your inner knowing. On the 18th, the sun is going to enter Pisces. So this is going to be a nice follow-up, right, to all this Pisces energy. Now Saturn and Neptune are in Aries. So this is the first time in years and years and years and years and years that the sun does not have to make a conjunction with Neptune and Saturn in Pisces. It just has to conjunct with the North Node, and the North Node is evolution. It's like being able to go into the spiritual space without necessarily having to do a spiritual lesson. It's like you can just go into the spiritual space and be, and allow yourself to just feel into the energy of the temple. What does it feel like when I sit in the energy of this temple without having to listen to a sermon? Completely different. It's your own personal connection with God, not through the lens of some experience or something that somebody's telling you or some dark night of the soul. It's just, what does your own personal connection with God feel like at this point after having done all of this work? So feel into that, because that's going to start this month for a month. And then on the 20th, we have that Saturn conjunction with Neptune. We don't know what this is going to feel like. We've never done this. We have never had this happen, but I will say that it will relate to your identity and how you perceive yourself. It will relate to new information about how you wish to move forward, how you wish to act, and who you are now, who you have become, who all of this work leading up to this for the whole entirety of your life so far. Where has it brought you to? And how conscious are you? And if you're not that conscious, snap to, get on it. So I want to leave you with one thought. The old stories, the things that have come before now, are no longer relevant. They are no longer meant to be stuck in the system. They're not supposed to be splinters under the skin that give you pain and suffering every once in a while when you notice they're there. They're not supposed to be a loud part of your storyline. So think about that for a second. What is still hanging around that happened many, many years ago that you refer back to prop yourself up, to support your point about why you were right, you're doing it perfectly, other people are not right, other people are screwing it up, other people have hurt you. Any of those stories from here on out, irrelevant unless you are using them to gather information from. It's like if you were to go into the library and open up a book of history and say, oh, right, the facts are that this happened on this date. Great. I'm going to take that. I'm going to use it to help me understand something that is happening moving forward. But I'm not going to dwell on that and allow that to be a part of my storyline. It's not going to be easy, but it's pretty necessary right now. And if you're incredibly conscious, great. Time to deepen in. So it's quite a week. I hope that this is helpful, and I will see you all next week.